I feel most tonight is scared. Scared that what we are facing is a crisis of confidence. We have now let misinformation become the accepted information.
40% of Americans don't trust mainstream media. This is where I would push back. When I see this kind of insight and passion being directed at the current administration and the lack of this kind of insight and passion being directed at the previous administration, I'm talking about left-leaning news media organizations were kind of like, la, 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 everything's fine. Look, the environment's, look, the economy's great, la, 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 immigration's not that much of a problem.
I would push back on immigration, but I do think that was covered. And I interviewed Vice President Harris.
Guys, we got to talk about this woke MSDNC paid propagandist out here getting demolished by old school actor from The Office, Rainn Wilson. This was the guy who played Dwight.
I send Dwight faxes from himself, from the future. At 8 a.m. today, someone poisons the coffee. Do not drink the coffee.
Now, I was kind of shocked. I was like, is that the same guy when I first saw a little bit of this clip? And yes, it is that Dwight, the nerdy guy from The Office, the conspiracy theorist guy, okay, the dweeb type of guy who always has something smart alecky or kind of crazy to say, who's kind of always getting on everybody's nerves. Oh yeah, this guy, and apparently he kind of acts similarly to how he did in the show because he's a little know-it-all and he actually knows what he's talking about because, you know, he has a brain, eyes, ears, and he was just paying attention and he noticed Joe Biden's cognitive decline in the fake news media trying to cover it up. Now, propagandist Stephanie Ruhle here doesn't take any accountability to the fake news. Well, maybe a little smidgen, but she kind of just says, well, Trump is just so unprecedented. We had to lie. I kid you not. This is basically what she says. Let me go ahead and show you in this reaction.
On a private basis. And I'm not reporting that. And I know that we're going to talk about, unhappiness with the news media these days. I can tell you, for me, everything that I make, I have the goal. I want to help people get better and smarter. Whatever it is, that's the goal. I think that things appeared a lot more liberal and maybe got more liberal during the era of Trump.
They did.
Because things were so unprecedented. Because we were dealing day in and day out with fact-checking a person who was pushing out exaggerations or things that were completely untrue every day. I think that...
it turns out Trump was right about everything, and you guys literally lied, like about Russia collusion, the Hunter Biden laptop, and you're even doing it today with the Maryland man, that this narrative that you keep continually pushing out without telling people that this is an illegal alien who's an MS-13 gangbanger who beats his wife.
COVID hit, and it was unprecedented covering it. What has happened in the last year and a half with President Biden? With President Biden choosing to run, with the way Kamala Harris became a candidate, the American people weren't happy with it.
40% of Americans don't trust mainstream media. Why is that? How did we get here?
Listen, we are seeing a huge loss in trust of all of our institutions. It's the media, it's medicine, it's banking. It's a huge problem because when you think about democracy and all of these pillars, they need to stand tall, they need to stand strong. And sort of losing that trust is not by accident, it's by design. If you remember when...
By whose design? You mean to tell me if you lie to people over and over again that they stop trusting you? Who knew?
President Trump was running the first time. Steve Bannon once said, the goal is to blow the whole thing up. And so I think that you've got mistakes made or things starting to slip, while at the same time there's a concerted effort to destroy the media. Because the media, the news media, is, in my opinion, the last line of defense.
Were you guys not trying to destroy Donald Trump? They just released a story about how Bill Maher was on a dinner with Adolf.
The message of this is not to, because Bill Maher, first of all, I totally agree. He's totally in the right to do it. And I loved his monologue. Even though I disagree with most everything he believes politically, he was right to do this and he was right to speak out about it. But this isn't about that dinner. It's about the next one, because this is the modern left. It's an attempt always to intimidate people into not ever doing it again. It's to silence yourselves or we'll do it for you. That's the purpose of this op-ed, so that the next comedian or the next person on the American left chooses not to speak to Donald Trump. This is all an effort to get people not to do what you just said, which is to talk to each other and our political leaders.
This guy has been on the left and supported the left and even supported the Democrats in this last election. And they are trying to destroy him now. So what do you mean people are trying to destroy the media? The media been trying to destroy politicians and people that they don't agree with, especially people on the right. So Stephanie, what the hell are you talking about? It's a two-way street here. You F with us. Don't F with us if you don't want us to F back. It's that simple. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
Of holding power accountable, right? And you had a bit of a perfect storm, right? President Trump won, and tons of people were shocked or angry or frustrated, and they're tuning out. And at the same time, you have the Elon Musk media machine, because they want you to leave traditional media and they want you to go to X, which is a bastion of misinformation, where there is no fact checking. So it's a perfect storm.
There's community notes, and the vast majority of community notes that are actually approved are accurate community notes.
Of people saying, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm tuning out, I'm disconnecting. And then you have a force pushing it. But even in the last 2 weeks, what we need to do is just cover what's happening in America, right? We have to
that's a novel idea. You mean just give the facts on what's happening and nothing else? No media spin, no narratives, no lies and gaslighting? Oh man, this is revolutionary. It's almost as if you should have done it in the first damn place.
Cover Democrats trying to figure out what their lane is and how they're going to get back on their feet. And we have to simply cover what this White House is doing. And I think if we do that, right, there's that saying, trust is gained in raindrops and it's lost in buckets. And it's not yes, you're not incorrect that the media has lost trust.
This is where I would push back. When I see this kind of insight and passion being directed at the current administration, and the lack of this kind of insight and passion being directed at the previous administration, where, again, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about left-leaning news media organizations were kind of like, la, 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 everything's fine. Look, the environment's, look, the economy's great, la, 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 immigration's not that much of a problem. And really being Cleopatra, queen of denial. Thank you. Boom.
I would push back on immigration. I can specifically remember when Greg Abbott of
Guys, I done did so many freaking videos on immigration. Don't even get me started.
Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida sent those buses of migrants to different cities, different parts of the country, which ended up being politically genius for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
The media regularly talked about the fact that Biden was not doing enough in his first 2.5 years on immigration. Even though in the last year and a half, you're seeing the numbers go down, he just wasn't doing enough. And you saw it in how
they literally covered for him and acted like he was doing enough. What, guys?
Voted, right? You had places like the Bronx, you had places like New Jersey, people who said, I'm not happy with immigration in this country. And that's why Democrats are scrambling to recalibrate now. But I do think that was covered. And I interviewed Vice President Harris in September. And I remember asking her, I said, nobody's eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. Mm-hmm. However, there are lots of people who live there who aren't happy with the amount of immigrants who have moved there, legally or not, because now their hospitals are stretched and their schools are stretched. And that's the same thing in tons of communities.
That was probably her biggest softball interview out of all of them. So I don't know what the hell this lady's talking. This lady is a propagandist cap queen.
In the country, what do you say to that? And I remember her answer was, well, we had this immigration bill and Donald Trump blocked it. And she's right. So there's nothing to put, she's right. Donald Trump did block the bill, but that doesn't address.
Donald Trump wasn't the damn president. What do you mean he blocked the bill? What, you mean the amnesty bill that was going to grant amnesty to all 11, 12, maybe even 20 plus million illegal aliens that were in the United States?
You don't need a bill. The president has the right to say, close the borders. The bill is a hoax. The Democrats are asking for this bill that's so ridiculous. It's a horrible bill. It's actually going to make it worse. But I keep saying, you don't need a bill. I did it. I had no bill. That's a terrible bill. 5,000 people a day, that's a lot. That's like record-setting stuff. No. I want to see a great bill. If we get a great bill, we should do it. If we don't get a great bill, but I don't think you're going to get a great bill. And if you're starting at 5,000 people a day, it's insane. For years, Democrats and the media kept saying that we needed new legislation. We had to have new legislation. We needed it immediately. And I never had legislation. I had the best border in the history of our country for almost 4 years. And by the time I got out, we had the lowest numbers ever. My favorite chart of all time was brought down that day. And on that chart said we had the lowest numbers ever. But it turned out that we really didn't need new legislation. All you needed was a new president.
That's not an immigration bill. We need a bill that's going to stop the issue from occurring. Or you guys claimed you did, but Donald Trump never got any bill passed. Congress hadn't done really a damn thing since he got in office. And he closed the border down and got this situation under control like that. So what are you talking about? Girl, this is what we mean by propaganda.
Express how people in the country feel. And just getting mired in, well, we tried to pass this thing and it didn't happen. What Republicans have been successful at, and they have not solved any of these issues for the American people, but they're willing to say some of the they're willing to talk about some of the unpleasant things that people feel. That when people say those things out loud, they're immediately called, xenophobic or racist.
Yeah.
And we have to make space for how people feel. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
My mom and dad live in New Jersey.
Most people, a large majority of people who have a problem with the current immigration crisis and have for the last 5 or 10 years are not racist, but often kind of tarred as racist by the liberal left.
I will tell you, if you go on the internet, people there's loads of clips that will come after me.
I heard about this internet thing. What is it?
After the election, I had not a debate, but a conversation with a friend of mine who was on the show, and I was making the point that I do not think Donald Trump's win means that half the country is racist. I don't believe that. This person really, really came at me that that's easy for me to say as a white woman of privilege that the country's not racist. But I think that's a very quick way to alienate people, right? Like I grew up in New Jersey, and I can tell you that when lots of people in New Jersey now drive over the bridge and it costs, I can't remember because I have Easy Pass, I think $16. And when they hear stories that migrants who live here get a cell phone or they get to stay in a hotel, that infuriates people because we are living in this moment where, not a moment, in general, everybody wants to feel like life is fair. And right now, lots of different groups of people feel like it's good for this group, it's good for that group, but it's unfair to me. And I think with the immigration crisis, we as a country or political leaders didn't give enough space to people who say, they're not necessarily anti-immigrant, but they're saying, I'm American. I was born here. I went to school here. I work here. I pay taxes. I cannot make ends meet because you're seeing the middle class get squeezed and squeezed. And they're pointing to other groups that are getting support from the government, and the people they're pointing to are migrants.
What does this mean? We're pointing to people. That's what's happening. This is what I don't like about propagandists like her. She's talking about this as if it's something we're like imagining. No, Stephanie, it's happening. Migrants did come into the country and get prepaid cars and put in hotels, and I mean they're literally getting everything that they need to be successful as a reward for breaking the law. First thing that they did when they came here, there was no punishment, and people are actively fighting for them to not be deported right now. So it's not just something that people feel this way. No, you little mother lover trying not to be cussing this lady out. No, it's that this is what's happening to people, and it is not fair. It's not that we feel like it's unfair. It's not all these feelings. The reality is that it is unfair to Americans. That's why we voted Trump in and got rid of the Democrats. We kicked them the hell up out of the office.
We need to give space to sort of hear those people, hear what their needs are. And instead, a lot of those people have felt like when they voice their opinions, they're treated like they're xenophobic and they're racist and they're anti-immigrant. And I don't think they are.
Guys, this lady is delusional, and I don't think this conversation with Mr. Rainn Wilson, Mr. Dwight from The Office is going to change anything. As a matter of fact, you have Democrat politicians like James Clyburn still saying that the problem is with the media and the messaging of the media rather than with the Democrats are selling being the issue.
I think the message that comes from the Democratic Party is a good message. The problem we've got, Alice, is that we have to depend upon the media to deliver it.
Young progressives, I would say, talk all the time, well, we need this fight, and these are the issues that matter. And then they rattle off issues that don't register at all in elections. They say climate change, gun violence, LGBTQ plus rights, things that I desperately care about. But people vote on the economy or they vote on immigration. And if you want to help us, go talk to Angie Craig or Pat Ryan or some of these moderates that win in tough districts and find what the special sauce is for that. And then bring that to incumbents or people who have a chance at actually beating a Republican and help them steer towards the middle where the majority of Americans actually are electorally.
Clyburn, he himself is a problem. He's the one that gave us Joe Biden. He blackmailed Biden to have a DEI VP.
Yep.
He was part of that coup and then pushed Kamala instead of an open primary, and then they got wiped out. And he's blaming the media. Permission to make an analogy.
Please do.
This is like the Democrats are a chef who cooked disgusting food. The media is like the food critic that keeps on lying to everybody about how good the food is. Now, they don't have any more customers, and the critic has no more readers, and the chef, instead of changing his recipe, wants food critics fired and rehired with better food critics. It has nothing to do with the food critics. You cook disgusting dishes. You need to stop using influencers and celebrity appearances and flashy music. Just cook better food that everybody likes.
I could not have said it better myself. The Democrats are just mad that they're feeding a bunch of propaganda and are trying to shove it down our throats, and we're not swallowing it, basically. Okay, we're refusing to gobble up their propaganda. Okay, there's certain people that are just taking it all down the throat, but we're fighting back. Okay, we're not accepting it. There's been too many lies told, and it's directly affected Americans. One thing if you just lie about a bunch of stuff and it doesn't matter, but it's directly affected outcomes. They basically anointed Kamala Harris. They lied about Joe Biden. They lied about Russia collusion. They lied about the pandemic. They lied about the lab leak as it relates to the pandemic. They lie about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They lie about Mr. Maryland Man, aka the MS-13 gang-banging wife beater. They lie about everything. They're still doing it right now. It's not like they stopped and they're trying to gain our trust back now. No, they're still actively lying to us, guys. So this, obviously, recognizing a couple problems here or there is not enough. Recognizing issues with stuff that you're not a part of. Oh, the Democrats are too quick to shut people down for, when they talk about people are racist and stuff. That's not enough, guys. That's just another cherry on top of so many issues that the Democrat Party has. One of the issues is with the media, which Stephanie herself here is refusing to really acknowledge any problems with the actual fake news propaganda media. And one of the reasons she's probably refusing to do it is because she is a part of the propaganda network MSDNC. Of course, she's not going to acknowledge that they lie and they gaslight people. I'm sure that she is familiar with that stupid border bill that they love to bring up. That's an amnesty bill that allowed up to 5,000 new immigrants per day, illegal aliens, to come into the country before shutting down the border, and allowed amnesty for the people who are already here. Like that, it's straight up granting citizenship to them. She knows about this sort of stuff. I'm not convinced that she's just ignorant to it, like she was brainwashed by the radical left Democrat politicians. So this lady is a lying shield propagandist, and she cannot be trusted. But these are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Who are you with?
NBC, but the full
NBC.
Oh my God.
NBC fake news.